The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a metal canyon. Thousands of alien beings sat in rows that reached up to the ceiling. Their voices filled the air with strange sounds as they talked about the newest request to join there. Group Captain Jake Morrison sat in the back corner, watching everything happen. He wore his blue human uniform with its simple design. Around him, creatures with 6 arms, purple skin, and glowing eyes talked in languages that sounded like music or grinding metal. Jake had been waiting for 3 hours to speak about his. People. Ambassador Crix stood at the center of the room. His tall, thin body looked like a gray stick with too many joints. When he moved, his limbs bent in ways that made Jake feel sick. Crix held up a small device that showed pictures of Earth and human cities. "Look at these beings," Crix said, his voice making a wet sound. "They call themselves humans. They live on a small blue planet at the edge of our galaxy. They want to join our council, but they are not ready." A crowd of aliens made different noises. Some laughed with sounds like breaking glass. Others clicked their tongues or made deep rumbling noises with their throats. Fleet Admiral Zephyr rose from his seat. His body was made of living crystal. That caught the light and threw rainbows across the room. When he spoke, his voice rang like a bell. "What weapons do these humans have?" Zephyr asked. Crix pressed a button on his device. The air above them filled with pictures of human spaceships. The ships looked rough and simple next to the smooth, glowing vessels that other races used. They shoot metal pieces at their enemies. Crix said, "Can you believe it? Metal pieces. They do not have energy shields to protect their ships. They do not have plasma cannons that can melt through anything. They have no quantum weapons that can destroy matter itself." A creature that looked like a giant spider with a human head laughed. "My children make better weapons with their web spinners." Jake felt his face grow hot with anger, but he stayed quiet. He had learned that speaking too soon in this place would only make things worse. "How long have they been traveling between stars?" asked a being made of flowing water that somehow kept its shape. "Less than 100 years, Crix replied. "We have been traveling the stars for thousands of years. The youngest race in our council has been doing it for 500 years. These humans are babies playing with fire, the water being rippled with what might have been laughter. 100 years? I have clothes older than their entire space program." More laughter filled the room. Jake gripped the arms of his chair so tight his knuckles turned white. High Counselor Vexstar called for order. She was the leader of the council and looked like a tall woman made of black metal. Her eyes glowed red like hot coals. "We have heard the report," she said. "Now we must decide. Should we let these humans join our council?" "They are too weak," said a creature covered in green scales. "Their ships would break apart if they tried to fly with our fleets." "They are too young," added another being with too many eyes. "They do not understand how the galaxy works. They might start wars by accident." "They are too simple," said a third alien that looked like a walking tree. "They still fight wars on their own planet. How can they handle peace between stars?" Jake had heard enough. He stood up and walked toward the center of the room. His boots made loud clicking sounds on the metal floor. The alien voices grew quiet as they watched him approach. "I request permission to speak," Jake said in the common galactic language. He had learned. High Counselor Vexstar looked down at him. "You may speak, human, but be quick. We have more important matters to discuss." Jake looked around the room at all the strange faces watching him. Some looked bored. Others seemed curious. A few looked like they wanted to laugh. "You say we are weak because our weapons are simple," Jake began. "You say we are young because we have only been traveling space for a short time. You say we are not ready to join your council." "That is correct," Crix said. "Your people have nothing to offer us. Jake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. You think you know everything about humans? But you have never fought against us. You have never seen what we can do when we are pushed into a corner. Are you threatening us? Admiral Zephyr asked. His crystal body started to glow brighter. No, Jake said. I am warning you. You look at our ships and see simple metal. You look at our weapons and see old technology. But you do not see what makes humans dangerous. And what is that? High Counselor Vextar asked. We never give up, Jake said. We adapt. We learn. We find ways to win even when everyone says we cannot. You have had the same weapons, and they same ships for hundreds of years. You stopped growing because you thought you were already perfect. Ridiculous, Crix said. Our technology is beyond anything your primitive minds could understand. Maybe, Jake said. But answer me this. When was the last time any of you changed your battle plans? When did you last invent a new weapon? When did you last surprise an enemy? The room fell silent. Jake could see some of the aliens looking uncomfortable. We do not need to change, said the spider-like creature. We are already the best. That is what every fallen empire said, Jake replied. You reject us because you think we are weak. But weakness can become strength. You think we are simple, but simple can be effective. You think we are young, but young means we can still learn and grow. High Counselor Vextar raised her hand. Enough. We have heard your words, human. But words do not change facts. Your people are not ready for this council. Perhaps in a few 100 years, when you have real technology, you can ask again. The council members made sounds of agreement. Jake felt his heart sink, but he was not surprised. We will remember this day, Jake said. We will remember that you had the chance to welcome us as friends. I hope you do not regret this choice. As Jake walked back to his seat, he heard Crix talking to another alien. Humans are so emotional. They cannot accept simple facts. This is why they will never be more than a minor species. But Jake was not listening to Crix anymore. He was thinking about the message he would send to Earth, the message that would tell his people they were alone in a galaxy full of beings who saw them as nothing more than primitive children. The council moved on to other business, but Jake stayed in his seat. He watched the aliens talk about trade routes and territorial disputes. He studied their faces and their movements. He listened to how they planned their defenses and organized their fleets. Knowledge, Jake thought, was the first step toward victory. And somehow, he knew that victory would be needed sooner than anyone expected. The great hall continued to buzz with alien voices, but Jake Morrison sat quietly in his corner, planning for a future that none of the proud galactic races could imagine. 3 months had passed since the Galactic Council rejected humanity's request to join their group. Captain Jake Morrison had returned to Earth with the bad news, but the government had expected it. They knew the aliens looked down on human technology and thought humans were too weak to matter. General Fakemar of the Vorthan Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator. Through the large windows, he could see his fleet of 200 warships floating in space like deadly metal sharks. Each ship was 3 times larger than the biggest human vessel, and their hulls gleamed with energy shields that could stop any attack. Are the target worlds ready for invasion? Thakmer asked his second-in-command. Commander Yixtal checked his screen. Yes, General. Our spies report that the human colonies on New Denver and Terra Nova have weak defenses. They have only a few small ships protecting each world. Thakmer smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Perfect. We will crush these humans quickly and claim their worlds. The other galactic powers will not have time to interfere. The Vorthan general looked at the battle plans on his screen. His intelligence officers had studied human military tactics for months. They found them simple and predictable. Humans always tried to meet their enemies head-on instead of using clever strategies. "Begin the attack," Thigmar ordered. The Vorthan fleet moved through space like a dark cloud. Their ships had no need to hide. Human sensors were too weak to detect them until they were close, and by then it would be too late. On the human colony world of New Denver, Commander Lisa Carter was finishing her morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. She ran to the command center, where her officers were staring at their screens with shocked faces. "What is it?" Lisa asked. "Ships, Commander," said Lieutenant Tony Rodriguez. "Lots of them. They just appeared at the edge of our system." Lisa looked. At the main screen, 200 red dots were moving toward their planet. Her heart began to beat faster. "How many defense ships do we have?" she asked. 12, Tony said quietly. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. 12 ships against 200. It was not even a fair fight. "Send a message to all colony worlds," Lisa ordered. "Tell them we are under attack. Tell them to prepare their defenses." "Commander," said another officer, "we are getting reports from Terra Nova. They are under attack too." Lisa felt cold fear in her stomach. If the aliens were attacking multiple worlds at once, this was not a small raid. This was a full invasion. The first Vorthan ships reached New Denver's outer defense ring. The human patrol ships fired their railguns and missile batteries, but the metal bullets bounced off the alien energy shields like raindrops. The missiles exploded harmlessly against the glowing barriers. The Vorthan ships did not even slow down. They fired back with plasma cannons that cut through the human ships like hot knives through butter. In less than 10 minutes, all 12 defense ships were destroyed. Lisa watched her people die on the screens. She had trained with these pilots. She had eaten dinner with them. Now they were gone, and she could do nothing to save them. "Send the evacuation signal," Lisa said. "Get everyone to the underground shelters." But it was too late. The Vorthan ships began bombarding the planet from orbit. Their energy weapons struck the surface like lightning, destroying buildings and melting roads. The human colony that had taken 50 years to build was being erased in less than an hour. Similar scenes played out on Terra Nova. Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded the defense fleet from her ship, the THS Guardian. She had 20 ships under her command, but they were just as helpless as the ships at New Denver. "Their shields are too strong," reported her tactical officer. "Our weapons cannot penetrate them." Kate watched as another of her ships exploded. The Vorthan vessels moved through her fleet like wolves among sheep, destroying everything in their path. "Fall back to the inner system," Kate ordered. "We need to buy time for the evacuation ships." But even as she gave the order, Kate knew it was hopeless. The alien ships were faster and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. They could destroy her entire fleet and still have enough ships left to conquer 10 more worlds. On the planet below, Captain Ben Walsh was stationed at the Titan defense platform. It was the strongest fortress humanity had built, with thick armor and heavy weapons. But as he watched the Vorthan ships approaching, he knew even the Titan would not be enough. "Sir," said his communication officer, "we are getting reports from all over human space. The aliens are attacking everywhere at once." Ben nodded grimly. This was not just an invasion of 2 colonies. This was an attack on all of humanity. He activated his emergency communication device and sent a message directly to Earth Command. "This is Captain Ben Walsh at Titan Defense Platform. We are under massive attack by alien forces. Conventional weapons are useless against their technology. We need the Excalibur project activated immediately." The message traveled through space, at the speed of light, reaching Earth 3 hours later. By then, New Denver and Terra Nova had fallen. The Vorthan forces were already moving toward the next group of human colonies. On Earth, President Helen Carter was pulled from a meeting. about trade policies. She ran to the emergency command center where her military advisors were already gathering. "How bad is it?" she asked. General Rick Hayes showed her the battle reports. "Very bad, Madam President. We have lost 2 colonies completely. The enemy fleet is moving toward our industrial worlds. At this rate, they will reach Earth in 2 weeks." Helen felt the weight of her office pressing down on her. She was responsible for the lives of billions of humans, and an alien army was coming to destroy them all. "What about our defense fleets?" she asked. "They are fighting bravely," Rick said, "but their weapons cannot penetrate the alien shields. We are losing ships faster than we can replace them." Helen looked around the room at her advisors. These were the smartest military minds humanity had, but they all looked defeated. "What options do we have?" she asked. Rick glanced at the other officers before answering. "There is one possibility. The Excalibur Project." Helen had heard rumors about a secret military project, but she had never been briefed on the details. "Tell me about it." "For the past 5 years, we have been developing a new type of warship," Rick explained. "It uses completely different technology than our current fleet. The project has been top secret because we were not sure it would work. And now it might be our only hope," Rick said. "But we have only built one ship, and it has never been tested in real combat." Helen thought about the millions of humans who were depending on her to make the right choice. She thought about the children who would grow up as slaves if the aliens won. She thought about the future of the human race. "Activate the Excalibur Project," she ordered. "Whatever it costs, whatever the risks, we have to try." As the orders went out to the secret facility in the mountains, the last human defense fleet at Terra Nova made their final stand. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched as her remaining ships formed a circle around the evacuation transports. "This is Admiral Sullivan to all ships," she broadcast. "Today we fight not just for our worlds, but for the future of humanity. Make every shot count." The Vorthan fleet approached like a wall of death. Their ships glowed with charged weapons, ready to finish off the human resistance. General Thakmer was pleased with how easy the conquest had been. "These humans are even weaker than we thought," he told his officers. "After we destroy this last fleet, we will move on to their industrial worlds. Soon, the entire human race will serve the Vorthan Empire." But as the battle began, neither the Vorthans nor the humans knew that deep in the mountains of Earth, something was stirring. Something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The THS Excalibur was almost ready to launch. Deep inside Cheyenne Mountain, behind doors that required 5 different security codes to open, Dr. Amy Foster walked down a metal corridor that led to humanity's most secret project. The walls hummed with power, and the air tasted of ozone. And Possibility.Amy had been working on the Excalibur project for 5 years, ever since the government decided that humanity needed a backup plan. While diplomats tried to make friends with alien races, scientists like Amy prepared for the day when friendship would not be enough. She entered the main hangar and stopped to look at her creation. The THS Excalibur was not like any other human ship. Where other vessels were built with straight lines and simple designs, the Excalibur curved and flowed like a living thing. Its hull was dark gray and seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. "Beautiful, isn't she?" said a voice. Behind her, Amy turned to see Colonel Steve Parker walking toward her. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. In a few hours, he would be taking the Excalibur into space for the first time. "Beautiful and deadly," Amy replied. "Are you ready for this, Steve?" "As ready as anyone can be for something that has never been done before," Steve said. "Walk me through the systems one more time." Amy nodded and led him to the ship's side. She placed her hand on the hull, and it felt warm under her palm. The first thing you need to understand is that this ship thinks differently than our other vessels, Amy explained. The outer hull is made of a special material we call adaptive composite. It can change its properties based on what kind of attack it faces. Steve frowned. You mean it can get harder or softer? Much more than that, Amy said. When energy weapons hit it, the hull absorbs the energy and stores it. When solid projectiles hit it, the hull becomes harder than diamond. When plasma strikes it, the hull spreads the heat across its entire surface. They walked around to the ship's weapon, ports. Instead of the large gun barrels that other ships used, the Excalibur had dozens of small openings that could barely be seen. Where are the main guns? Steve asked. Amy smiled. The Excalibur doesn't use main guns. It uses swarm tactics. Each of those small ports can launch a dozen combat drones at once. The drones are controlled by an artificial intelligence that can learn and adapt during battle. Steve looked worried. An AI controlling weapons? That sounds dangerous. It is dangerous, Amy admitted, but not to us. The AI is programmed to protect human life above all else. It will never harm a human, but it will do anything necessary to destroy our enemies. They walked up the ramp into the ship's interior. The hallways were wider than normal, and the walls were covered with screens that showed information about the ship's systems. The AI is called ARIA, Amy explained. It stands for Adaptive Response, Intelligence Array. ARIA has been studying every piece of alien technology we could get our hands on. It knows how their weapons work, how their ships move, and how their tactics have been used in past battles. Steve was impressed despite his nervousness. So it can predict what they will do? Better than that, Amy said. It can do things they will never expect. Human creativity combined with computer speed. ARIA can think of 1,000 different battle plans in the time it takes you to blink. They reached the bridge where the rest of the crew was waiting. Lieutenant Commander Jenny Adams stood at the tactical station, checking the drone systems. She was a small woman with bright red hair and quick hands that moved over the controls like a pianist playing music. How are the drones looking, Jenny? Steve asked. All systems green, Captain, Jenny replied. We have 500 combat drones ready to launch. Each one is equipped with adaptive programming that lets it change its mission based on battlefield conditions. Tony Rodriguez, the ship's chief engineer, looked up from his station. The propulsion system is ready too, Captain. The hybrid drive combines our fusion technology with power cells we reverse engineered from captured alien equipment. Steve nodded. How fast can we go? Faster than anything the aliens have, Tony said with a grin. Their ships are powerful, but they are also heavy. The Excalibur is built for speed and maneuverability. Amy led Steve to the captain's chair, which was surrounded by holographic displays that showed everything happening around the ship. This is your command interface, Amy explained. Instead of looking at screens, you see the battle happening around you in 3 dimensions. You can zoom in on any part of the fight and give orders just by thinking about them. Steve sat down and immediately felt the ship respond to his presence. The displays came alive with information about the Excalibur systems, the location of enemy ships, and hundreds of other details. It feels like the ship is alive, Steve said. In a way, it is, Amy replied. ARIA is not just a computer program. It is a learning system that grows smarter with every battle. The more it fights, the better it becomes. A communication panel beeped, and General Rick Hayes appeared on the screen. His face was grim. Captain Parker, we have a situation. The Vorthen fleet has destroyed our defenses at Terra Nova and New Denver. They are moving toward our industrial worlds. We need the Excalibur in space immediately. Steve looked at his crew. They were all young and had never been in a real battle before. The Excalibur was an untested weapon, and they were about to face an enemy that had already destroyed dozens of human ships. "How long do we have?" Steve asked. "The Vorthen fleet will reach Proxima Station in 18 hours, Rick replied. "That is where Admiral Sullivan is making her last stand with what remains of our defense fleet." Steve stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. "You heard the General. We launch in 1 hour. Everyone check your systems one more time." As the crew prepared for departure, Amy pulled Steve aside. "There is something else you need to know," she said quietly. "The Excalibur has one more weapon that we have not tested. It is built into the ship's hull." "What kind of weapon?" Amy hesitated. "The adaptive hull can do more than just absorb energy. It can also reflect it back at the enemy, amplified by the ship's own power core. But we have never tried it because the energy discharge might damage the ship." Steve felt a chill run down his spine. "How much damage?" "We don't know," Amy admitted. "The computer models show it should work, but models are not the same as reality. If something goes wrong, it could destroy the ship and everyone on it." Steve looked around the bridge at his crew. They were preparing to face impossible odds with an untested weapon. They might all die in the next few hours. "Does the crew know about this?" he asked. "No," Amy said. "I wanted to tell you first." Steve thought about it for a moment. "Don't tell them. They have enough to worry about." 1 hour later, the Excalibur lifted off from its hidden launch pad. The ship rose through the atmosphere like a dark shadow, its hull absorbing the sunlight and giving nothing back. On the bridge, Steve watched the Earth fall away below them. It might be the last time he would see his home planet. If the Excalibur failed, there would be no second chances. "Arya, are you ready?" Steve asked. The AI's voice filled the bridge. It sounded almost human, but there was something else in it. Something that promised violence to anyone who threatened humanity. "I am ready, Captain," Arya replied. "I have analyzed all available data about Vorthen tactics and technology. I have prepared 17 different battle plans based on possible enemy actions." "And if none of those plans work?" Steve asked. "Then I will create new ones," Arya said. "That is what I was designed to do." The Excalibur entered hyperspace, racing toward Proxima Station, where the final battle for humanity's survival was about to begin. Behind them, Earth waited in darkness, hoping that their secret weapon would be enough to save them all in the depths of space. General Thakmer was celebrating his easy victories. He had no idea that something was coming toward him that would change everything, he thought. He knew about human capabilities. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology, but their refusal to give up when everyone said they should. Proxima Station hung in space like a metal flower with 8 arms reaching out toward the stars. Each arm was a docking bay where ships could refuel and repair. The station had been built to be a peaceful place where humans could rest during long journeys, but now it was about to become a battlefield. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the THS Guardian, looking out at what remained of her fleet. She had started with 47 ships. Now she had only 12 left, and most of those were damaged from previous battles with the Vorthen forces. "How long until the enemy arrives?" Kate asked her tactical officer. 6 hours, Admiral," came the reply. "Long-range sensors show their entire fleet moving toward us." Kate nodded grimly. The Vorthens had been destroying human colonies for 3 days, and now they were coming to finish off the last organized resistance. After Proxima Station fell, there would be nothing between the alien fleet and Earth. "Any word from command about reinforcements?" Kate asked. Her communication officer shook his head. "Nothing, Admiral. All other fleets are either destroyed or too far away to help." Kate looked at her crew. They were good people who had followed her orders without question, even when those orders meant flying into certain death. They deserved better than to die in a hopeless battle. "Attention all ships," Kate broadcast to our fleet. "This is Admiral Sullivan. In 6 hours, we will face an enemy that outnumbers us 20 to 1. They have better weapons, stronger shields, and faster ships. By all logic, we should surrender now and save our lives." She paused, looking out at the human ships floating around the station. "But we are not logical people. We are humans, and humans do not surrender when their families need protection. We will fight here, and we will make the Vorthans pay for every inch of space they take from us." The response from her fleet was immediate. Every ship sent back the same message: "We are with you, Admiral." Meanwhile, the THS Excalibur was racing through hyperspace toward Proxima Station. "On the bridge, Captain." Steve Parker watched the tactical display showing the approaching battle. "How long until we arrive?" Steve asked. 4 hours, Captain," replied Tony Rodriguez from the engineering station. "The hybrid drive is performing better than expected." Lieutenant Commander Jenny Adams looked up from her tactical station. "Captain, I have finished analyzing the battle reports from New Denver and Terra Nova. The Vorthan ships use a standard attack formation with heavy cruisers in the center and destroyers on the flanks." Steve studied the information on his holographic display. "What about their shields?" "Energy-based, but very powerful," Jenny replied. "Our railguns and missiles cannot penetrate them. The aliens probably think they are completely safe from our weapons." Steve smiled coldly. "Arya, what do you think of their tactics?" The ship's AI responded immediately. "Vorthan battle doctrine is based on overwhelming firepower and superior defense. They have not changed their methods in over 200 years because they have never faced an enemy that required adaptation." "That is about to change," Steve said. "Show me your battle plans." The holographic display around Steve's chair changed to show dozens of different attack scenarios. Arya had calculated the probable positions of every enemy ship and planned responses to each possibility. "I recommend we begin with Plan 7, Arya said. "It takes advantage of their overconfidence while testing their response to unexpected tactics." Steve nodded. "Make it happen." 4 hours later, the Vorthan fleet arrived. At Proxima Station, General Thegmer stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator, watching the small human fleet arranged around the station. "Only 12 ships?" he asked his tactical officer. "Yes, General. Our scouts report that this is all that remains of their organized resistance." Thegmer laughed. "These humans are even more pathetic than I thought. Signal the fleet to attack. We will destroy them quickly and move on to their industrial worlds." The Vorthan fleet moved into their standard attack formation, 200 ships arranged in a perfect pattern that had brought them victory in 1,000 battles. They had no reason to think this battle would be different. Admiral Sullivan watched the approaching enemy fleet and felt her heart sink. The Vorthans had so many ships that they blocked out the stars behind them. "All ships, prepare for battle," she ordered. "Target their lead vessels and fire everything we have." The human ships opened fire with their railguns and missile batteries. The metal projectiles and explosive warheads raced toward the Vorthan fleet, but they struck the energy shields and bounced away harmlessly. "No effect on enemy shields," reported the tactical officer. Kate had expected this, but it still hurt to watch their weapons fail. "Continue firing. Make them work for it." The Vorthan ships responded with their plasma cannons. Beams of superheated gas lanced across space, striking the human vessels. The THS Warrior exploded in a ball of fire. The THS Defender lost its entire front section and began spinning out of control. "Sir," called out the communication officer, "the Defender is asking for evacuation support." "Negative. Kate replied. "We cannot spare any ships. Tell them to get to the escape pods." The battle was going exactly as everyone had expected. The humans were fighting bravely, but they were being destroyed piece by piece. In 10 minutes, half of Kate's fleet was gone. That was when something impossible happened. A single ship appeared in the middle of the Vorthan fleet. It had not come from the direction of the human forces, and it had not been detected by any sensors. It was simply there, as if it had materialized out of nothing. "What is that?" General Thekmer demanded. His tactical officer stared at his screens in confusion. "Unknown, sir. It appears to be a human vessel, but it is not like any design in our database." Thekmer looked at the strange ship through his viewport. It was smaller than his cruisers, but larger than the human destroyers. Its hull was dark and seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. "One ship?" Thekmer said. "They send one ship against my entire fleet? These humans have finally lost their minds." The general opened a communication channel to the mysterious vessel. "Unknown human ship, you are surrounded by 200 Vorthan warships. Surrender now, and we will make your death quick." The response came back immediately. "This is Captain Steve Parker of the THS Excalibur. We are here to give you one chance to withdraw from human space. Leave now or face the consequences." Thekmer could not believe what he was hearing. "You dare threaten me? I will personally oversee your destruction." "I was hoping you would say that," Steve replied. The Excalibur suddenly erupted with movement. Hundreds of small objects poured out of ports all along its hull. They spread out like a swarm of angry insects, each one moving in a different direction. "What are those things?" Thekmer asked. "Combat drones, sir," his tactical officer replied. "They appear to be." Oh no, the drones were not attacking randomly. They were coordinating their movements in ways that Vorthan computers had never seen before. Some drones flew straight at the enemy ships, while others curved around to attack from behind. Still others hung back, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "All ships, destroy those drones," Thekmer ordered. The Vorthan fleet opened fire. With everything they had, plasma cannons, particle beams, and quantum torpedoes filled space with deadly energy. Many of the drones were destroyed, but the survivors adapted their tactics instantly. The drones began using the wreckage of their destroyed companions as shields. They hid behind debris and struck when the Vorthan ships were reloading. They worked together in groups, with some drones distracting the enemy while others found weak spots in their defenses. "Sir," called out a Vorthan officer, "the drones are learning our attack patterns. They are adapting faster than our computers can calculate new strategies." Meanwhile, the Excalibur itself was moving through the enemy fleet like a ghost. Whenever a Vorthan ship fired at it, the dark hull absorbed the energy and seemed to grow stronger. "Target that ship with all forward batteries." Thekmer ordered. 20 Vorthan cruisers turned their main guns toward the Excalibur and fired simultaneously. The combined energy blast should have vaporized any human vessel. Instead, the Excalibur's hull began to glow with absorbed power. On the bridge, Steve felt the ship vibrate as the adaptive armor drank in the enemy fire. "Arya, can we handle this much energy?" Steve asked. "Affirmative, Captain. The hull has absorbed 73% of the incoming fire. The remaining energy has been dispersed safely." Steve looked at Jenny Adams. "Are you ready to show them what we can do with all this power?" Jenny smiled and pressed a button on her console. Reflective. Discharge in 3.2.1. The Excalibur's hull suddenly blazed with light as bright as a star. All the energy it had absorbed was released at once, amplified by the ship's own power core and focused into devastating beams that struck the Vorthan Fleet. 3 enemy cruisers exploded instantly. 2 more lost their shields and began venting. atmosphere. The blast was so powerful that it damaged ships that were not even targeted. General Thekmer stared in horror as his perfect fleet began to fall apart. "How is this possible?" he shouted. "No ship can absorb that much energy and survive." But the Excalibur was not finished. The combat drones had been busy, while the main ship drew the enemy's attention. They had infiltrated the Vorthan formation, and were now attacking from within. The drones did not fight like normal weapons. They used psych. The news of the battle at Proxima Station reached every corner of the galaxy within 3 days. The impossible had happened. A single human ship had defeated an entire Vorthan fleet. Alien civilizations that had dismissed humanity as primitive were now asking urgent questions about human military capabilities. On the crystalline homeworld of Zephyros, Fleet Admiral Zephyr called an emergency meeting of his war council. The same being who had laughed at human weapons just months before was now studying battle reports with growing concern. How many ships did the humans lose? Zephyr asked his intelligence officer. "None, sir," came the reply. A human vessel called Excalibur destroyed 67 Vorthan ships and damaged 30 more without taking any significant damage itself. Zephyr's crystal body flickered with nervous energy. "That is impossible. The Vorthans have the most advanced shields in the galaxy. Nothing can penetrate them. According to our analysis, the human ship did not penetrate their shields," the officer explained. "It absorbed their energy weapons and reflected the power back at them, amplified by the ship's own systems." The Admiral felt a chill run through his crystalline form. If humans could turn their enemies' weapons against them, then every advanced civilization in the galaxy was vulnerable. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Helen Carter was meeting with her military advisors in the secure bunker beneath the White House. The victory at Proxima Station had bought them time, but everyone knew the war was far from over. "What is the status of the Excalibur?" Helen asked. General Rick Hayes checked his reports. "The ship is fully operational and ready for its next mission. Captain Parker reports that the AI system performed even better than expected. It learned and adapted during the battle in ways that surprised even Dr. Foster." Helen nodded. "And the other ships in the program?" "The second Excalibur-class vessel will be ready in 2 weeks," Rick replied. "We are building them as fast as we can, but each ship requires technologies that are difficult to produce." "How long before we have a full fleet?" Helen asked. 6 months for 10 ships, Rick said. "A year for 20. Helen frowned. "That might not be fast enough. The aliens know about our new technology now. They will be preparing countermeasures." She was right. Across the galaxy, alien scientists and military leaders were studying every piece of information they could find about the Excalibur. They were trying to understand how humans had developed such advanced technology so quickly. Ambassador Crix of the Vorthan Empire sat in his office, staring at a holographic display showing the wreckage of his fleet. He had been the one to recommend the invasion of human space, confident that the primitive humans would be easily defeated. A communication signal interrupted his thoughts. The face of High Counselor Vexstar appeared on his screen. "Ambassador Crix," she said, "the Galactic Council has received reports about the battle at Proxima Station. Is it true that a single human ship defeated your entire invasion fleet?" Crix felt humiliation burn in his chest. "Yes, High Counselor. The humans have developed some kind of new weapon technology. Our intelligence reports were clearly inadequate." "Indeed." "They were," Vexstar replied coldly. "The Council is convening an emergency session. We need to reassess our position regarding the human species." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any meeting in the organization's history. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the Great Hall, all talking at once about the implications of human military technology Captain Jake Morrison sat in the same observer's seat he had occupied months before. But now the aliens were not laughing at him. They were watching him with wary respect and barely concealed fear. High Counselor Vextar called for order. We are here to discuss the recent military action between the Vorthan Empire and the human species. It appears that our previous assessment of human capabilities was ... incomplete. Admiral Zephyr stood up. With respect, High Counselor, incomplete is not the right word. We were completely wrong. The humans have developed technology that makes our most advanced weapons useless. A murmur ran through the crowd. The spider-like alien that had mocked human weapons before was now silent, his multiple eyes fixed on Jake Morrison. What do the humans want? Asked the water being that had previously dismissed humanity as too young for the council. Jake stood up slowly. Every eye in the hall turned toward him. He remembered the last time he had addressed this council, when they had rejected humanity's application to join their group. The same thing we wanted before, Jake said calmly. Peace, trade, mutual cooperation. The only difference is that now we have the strength to demand respect. You attacked our ships without provocation. Crix. Accused. Jake's expression hardened. You invaded our space and destroyed our colonies. You killed millions of innocent people. We defended ourselves. With technology that violates the basic laws of physics, said the tree-like alien. How did you develop such weapons so quickly? Jake smiled. We did what humans always do. We adapted. We learned. We found a way to survive when everyone said we could not. High Counselor Vextar leaned forward. Are you threatening us, human? No, Jake replied. I am offering you a choice. You can accept humanity as an equal partner in the galactic community, or you can continue to see us as enemies. But remember, we are no longer the weak species you dismissed just a few months ago. The hall fell silent. Jake could see the fear in the aliens' eyes as they realized that the balance of power had shifted. What guarantees do we have that humans will not use their new weapons against us? Asked Admiral Zephyr. The same guarantee you gave us when we were defenseless, Jake said. None. You will have to trust us, just as we had to trust you. Debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The Galactic Council voted unanimously to accept humanity as a full member with all the rights and responsibilities that came with membership. As the session ended, Ambassador Crix approached. Jake, you have won today, human, but do not think this is over. Many species will see you as a threat now. Jake nodded. I know, but threats are something humans understand. We have been dealing with them our entire history. 2 weeks later, the THS Excalibur was orbiting the planet Centaura Prime, where the Galactic Council had its headquarters. Captain Steve Parker stood on his bridge, watching the alien ships keeping a respectful distance from his vessel. Captain, said Lieutenant Commander Jenny Adams, we are receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Steve turned to the communication screen. General Rick Hayes appeared, but his expression was serious. Captain, we have a situation. Our deep space sensors have detected something approaching from the galactic core. It appears to be a massive fleet of unknown origin. Steve felt his stomach tighten. How massive? Preliminary estimates suggest over 1,000 ships, Rick replied. They are moving toward inhabited space at high speed. We believe they may be hostile. Steve looked at his crew. They had just finished one war, and now it seemed another was beginning. What are our orders, sir? Steve asked. The Galactic Council has requested human assistance, Rick said. For the first time in their history, they are asking for help from a species they once considered inferior. Steve understood. The galaxies. Most advanced civilizations were turning to humanity not because they loved humans, but because they feared the unknown threat more than they feared human weapons. Understood, sir. The Excalibur is ready for whatever comes next. As the communication ended, Steve looked out at the alien ships surrounding his vessel. Just months ago, these same species had dismissed humanity as too primitive to matter. Now they were depending on human technology to protect them from a new enemy. Arya's voice filled the bridge. "Captain, I have completed my analysis of the approaching fleet. Their technology is unlike anything in the galactic database. This will be a new type of challenge." Steve nodded. "Then we will meet it the same way we met the last one, with human determination and the refusal to give up." The crew of the Excalibur prepared for their next mission, knowing that the galaxy was watching them. They had proven that humanity could defend itself against established powers. Now they would have to prove that they could protect others as well. In the depths of space, the unknown fleet continued its approach. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if the humans who had once been dismissed as primitive could save them all from a threat that none of them understood. The age of human dominance in the galaxy had begun not through conquest, but through the simple act of refusing to surrender when defeat seems certain. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from being the strongest, but from being the most stubborn. And humans, as the galaxy was learning, were very stubborn indeed.